Good morning and welcome to this morning's edition of Contracting Chatter. Grab your business bestie, contractor's notebook, and your favorite beverage. Don't pay attention to the description, tag the screen, share the log, because what we're talking about today is a recap of the Contractors Roundtable where we were discussing certifications. It's a brief recap of the roundtable on certifications. Anybody notice that Facebook always says some friends might receive this, some friends might not, whether you use highlight or everyone, but guess what? They don't receive it anyway. Moving on. um, Good morning, everyone. So let's talk about the last Contractors Roundtable. The topic of the conversation was government certifications. And I gave a run through of the various types of certifications that were out there, how they were administered, and the purpose certifications serve. I even talked about the regulations that govern certifications. Now, a lot of people don't realize certifications are governed by federal regulations. Now, the overarching purpose of certifications is to provide a quote level playing field for small, underrepresented persons and companies when it comes to government contracting. Depending upon the certification type, who they're trying to level the playing field for. That's where that's the short and dirty version of the definition. Now, that's a quick and dirty definition. There are a few certifications that are not tied to directly to a federal regulation. However, they are federally governed. And that would be the MBE, DBE. However, they are administered on a local level, but they are governed by a federal agency. The MBEs, DBEs are the more famous certifications. Everybody recognizes MBE, the Minority Business Enterprise, DBE, the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, the EB, the economically EDBE, the economically disadvantaged business enterprise. Those are the ones that are administered typically by the Department of Transportation. They're more fuller, but they don't have a federal regulation typically tied to them. However, they are governed by a federal regulation, and I'm not going to try to quote it at this particular moment in time. When the training is posted to the training center, there's a handout that accompanies the training, and each regulation is listed with each certification. Now, there was a change. My mentees in the chat on TikTok. There was a change made to the DBE certification. And that was, if you're certified in your home state, they basically have to give you reciprocal certification in other states. Basically, once you demonstrate you're certified in your home state, everybody else has to certify you in their state. That's a change that was made in the last update to that certification. Before, you had to go through the whole process in every state that you wanted to be certified in. Now, once you're certified in your home state, they give you reciprocal certification in every state. Here's the thing. Just because you're certified does not guarantee, and nobody will give you a contract. You still need to put in the work. That's just that point. They're point blank simple. You still need to put in the work to obtain contracts. There are two types of certification, or two categories of certifications: set-asides and goals. And somebody's saying, what's the difference? Set-asides are certifications, are contracts classified under certifications that those who have those certifications are the only ones who can bid on those, such as your 8As. Now, while I was performing my research, I noticed they considered GSA certification. Although I disagree with that, I understand why they included GSA. I understand why they did that. Because only people who are GSA schedule holders typically can bid on a GSA schedule contract. So, although I disagree with the designation, I understand the rationale. So those are set-asides. So those contracts have that designation, and only those companies with that certification can bid on those contracts. That's a set-aside. The rest are goals. If those companies have that label classification, the government has established goals. The government has stated, we want to have work with these companies, and we want our primes and our federal agency to award a certain amount of work with these companies. That's it. That's all. You're still competing with everybody else. You're still out here doing the work with everybody else. Whereas with set-asides, you're only competing with companies who have that certification. With goals, you're competing with every other government contractor. Do you get the difference? Set asides, you're only competing with companies who are certified the same as you, such as 8A. 8A is a set aside. You're only competing with other 8A firms. DBE, MBE, that is a goal. They want to award a certain number of contracts to MBE, DBE designated companies. They want primes to award a certain amount of work to DBE, MBE companies. They want the government to award a certain amount of work to DBE, MBE companies. And I'm going to give you, it's not even a secret. Every agency isn't meeting those goals. Now, there are some agencies that have been meeting those goals and they've been meeting them proudly. There are some agencies that have never met that goal. And although our current sitting president has signed an executive order that increased that goal this past year, I don't know why, because there are agencies that wasn't meeting the old goal. And they tell you why they don't meet it. Because they don't like working with small businesses. And when you talk to those agencies, some of the reasons they list are valid. Some of them are very valid. And that is because some companies rely so heavily on the designation until they don't make sure that they can invoice, that they can perform, that they have the skills and the staffing needed to actually get through the entire contract. That is why I tell my clients and my community, you want the certification, go for it, but have an underpinning strategy and don't rely on it. You should be building up your back end so that when you pitch your company, you're pitching your skills and your qualifications and then saying, oh, by the way, I am certified. We are a certified company. You're pitching yourself as though I always say it this way, you should be pitching yourself as a cake with a whipped cream frosting, not a whipped cream cake. Because nobody wants a whipped cream cake, but everybody wants a whipped cream frosting cake, if that analogy makes sense. But too many people pursue these certifications as though and presenting it as though they're the whipped cream cake versus being a cake with whipped cream frosting, if that makes sense. And since the goal is more so to be certified versus being competent and capable, that's why some agencies don't like to work with small businesses. And then I'm going to also go here and I'm going to just put it out there. Businesses don't like to hear this part of the conversation when it comes to government certifications. People want to hear this pie in the sky. If you get certified, the world becomes this happy place and you'll win all these contracts. And that is not true. The certification is just a part of the process. I'll never forget, there was this one guy, he was certified in all 50 states and he couldn't figure out why he hadn't won a contract yet. He spent so much time getting certified, he never built his back end. That's why he hadn't won a contract yet. Matter of fact, he had spent so much time getting certified, he hadn't even bid on a contract because somebody had told him the certification, somebody would give him a contract. I don't know who told him that, but that's what he was told. Nobody is giving you anything. But let's go back. Let me get off of that tirade for a minute. So So the roles of certifications is to level the playing field in the government contracting world. The goal of the certifications is to provide a leg up and give access to contracts that otherwise the average small business wouldn't have access to. That is the role of certification. I'm digging out one of my old trainings where I dug into the legislative history where they argued the creation of the set aside program. And I actually walked through the actual legislation. I'm going to dig that out and I'm going to also add that to the training center because I really believe that's also beneficial to the community. And I will add that to the training center as well. So are certifications valuable? Yes. Do they have their place? Yes. Should you rely on them like a crutch or a wheelchair? No. They're a tool in the contractor's toolkit. And you pull out that tool when appropriate. Does that make sense? Yes or yes? Our next Contractors Roundtable, which will be September 3rd, we're talking about record keeping. By regulation, every government contractor is required to maintain certain records. You're even required to have a policy that stipulates how long you're supposed to maintain, how long you maintain those records. So we're talking about that during the Contractors Roundtable. Good morning, Sharon. During the Contractors Roundtable on September 3rd. So on LinkedIn, YouTube, the QR code is actually in the upper left hand on the screen. You can scan that code and it'll take you to the landing page where you can register for the Contractors Roundtable. I still need to add the link, the registration link to TikTok. So learn how to build out your compliance department. Learn how to develop a compliance team because I'm going to tell you, non-compliance is costly in government contracting. And you don't want to spend time to build up your company and allow one non-compliance to knock down the underpinning of everything you've worked for. And if you're in my community, you cannot say, I didn't know, because I'm telling you. That's a part of chatter, because I'm telling you. So please follow me for additional information. Join me each morning for 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for additional content on contracting chatter. I will be reporting from the Democratic National Convention. Hopefully, we will have a reporting on the official platform of the Democratic candidate what their official platform for their presidency is going to look like. I don't know who she announced as her vice president. To be honest, I didn't pay attention yesterday. I didn't watch the news yesterday. So I don't know who she announced as her vice president. Does anybody know? And I went from client meeting to something else. So I don't know who she announced as her vice president. But anyway, I'm reporting on the DNC from a business standpoint. And Chatter also talks about things from a business standpoint. As I said, whoever resides at Pennsylvania Avenue influences policies and procedures that influences your business, that affects your business. I want to remind everybody who has an LLC to file your FINREC. That non-compliance will cost you $500 a day. If you don't know what that is, I will talk about that. Please file your FINREC. If you don't know how to file, get help filing. That non-compliance will bankrupt you. So please file that by the I believe the due date for that is October 30th. So we don't have much time left, and you have to file it for every LLC that you have. Excuse me. So if you have 3 LLCs, you have to file one for every LLC. So please file those immediately, because the penalty for not filing is $500 per day. If you're a government contractor, make sure you get your taxes filed. Make sure your back taxes are filed if they aren't filed. If you need help with that, please reach out to me. I can help you with that as well. What else do we need to talk about before we wrap up this morning? The SBA certification system is down for upgrade. When it comes back up, you will be able to submit multiple certifications at the same time. Keep this in mind. This is what I wanted to talk about. Currently, when you do the woman-owned designation, it's through SBA, it's something called self-certified, which means you're self-reporting that you're a woman-owned entity or you're a minority-owned entity. And you have to do it one by one. When it comes back up, when the system comes back up, and I believe the goal is to have it back up this week. They'll do an announcement when it's back up. You'll be able to submit all these certifications at one time. Now, here's my thing about the certifications. Once again, you do what you need to do. That's a decision you make for yourself and your business. But no matter how you certify your business, keep this in mind. You and your business are 2 different entities. That is per the government, per the IRS. So although you're certifying the business as minority owned, you're certifying the business as women owned, you're certifying the business as economically disadvantaged. Per the IRS, the business is one entity and you are another. And there's a shield, a separation, which is why you formed an LLC, which is why you formed a corporation. To keep them separate, to keep them 2 persons. So while they may have that designation, do not be tempted to talk about them as though they are the same. They are different. I sit in the seat of the CEO of LT&A Consulting Group. I am the managing person. I am the decision maker of LTACG. I am not LTACG. Period. In a discussion. You have to make sure no matter how you certify your business entity, you keep your language straight. You keep that straight. Otherwise, you break your corporate protection and open yourself up to all types of legal liability. So no matter how you certify your business, maintain your legal protection. Keep that in mind. I want you to keep that in mind. Certify it however you want to certify it, but maintain your legal protection. Your business is one person. You are another person. And you may be certifying the person of your business, however you certify it, but it is a separate and wholly distinct entity from you. And your language and your actions and everything needs to reflect that at all times. I'm just saying, I'm not a lawyer, I don't play one on TV, but I'm also advising my people to be compliant at all times with everything. And you don't want to sit up here and get sued and they use your words against you. Good morning, 2 cents money. And they use your words against you to sue you. We have to be careful. That's why I always say have a strategy to underpin everything you're doing. And with that, join me tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another edition of Contracting Chatter. We're talking about some of the elements of compliance. Keep in mind, I'm having a contractors, honey, that's, if I talked about compliance, I would be talking about compliance from now until the end of the year. And people would have headaches because, and that's the unsexy part of business. And then I'm going to close out on that nobody wants to talk about, but that compliance is what keeps you in business. Compliance is what keeps you in business. It's what keeps money in your bank account. And what keeps you, it keeps you friendly with the IRS, the U.S. Treasury, and all the other nice little entities. It's what makes you a good business partner. I said it on day 2 of my contracting and business week that everybody should have signed up for. What makes you a good strategic partner? Why should people do business with you and why should people partner with you? Simply put, are you a compliant person? Thank you. Are you a compliant person? Do you operate in compliance? And people confuse ethics with compliance. Ethics is a person, an ethical business is a person who does what they're supposed to do. And I called your business a person. A person who does what they're supposed to do when nobody is looking. A compliance person is a person who follows the rules all the time, at all times, even when it isn't convenient. And let me tell you, there are times you may not want to follow the rules because it's not convenient. But honey, it's more convenient to follow the rules than to get caught and write a check and tarnish your reputation. And everybody who's doing business with you reputation. There is a compliance factor that people don't want to talk about. And with that, I'll see everybody tomorrow. Remember, there's a compliance factor to everything that we do. And your business and your reputation hangs upon it. Have an amazing day. and I'll see y'all tomorrow.